Welcome to the Alain Elkann interviews, an unprecedented window into the minds of some of the most well-known and respected figures of the last 25 years.
Mr. Francesco Starace is a man of energy because he is a nuclear engineer and spent his young age in various companies, in various countries, and entered into Enel around 2000 and made his career, his brilliant career, in different sections and fields. And he's very well known because he's a pioneer in what we call renewable energies, right? You know, these renewable energies, how much they represent, how much they can ensure energy for...
I think there is not really a limit. During the last decade, it became quite obvious, before it was not fully understood, that there is no real limit to how much renewable energy you can put into an electricity network, into an electricity system. And this is difficult to understand when, like 15 years ago, there was a study published in Germany by the German network operator saying, when we will have 5% of renewables, the network will become so unstable that it will be difficult to manage. Now they are at 35% and 40%. And in these weeks, when there is so much going on, they had moments where they had even 80% over a week supported by renewable energy. So there's no real physical limitation, apart that you need to digitize the network, which was not possible 10 or 20 years ago. You need to put more batteries and storage into the system to manage unbalanced flows. But apart from that, it is today competitive, and it is today absolutely advisable to push as much renewable as you can and get out as much as you can from this gas dependence.
For a person who's not aware, who didn't study physics and who's not an engineer, which are the main renewable energies so that people can understand?
Hydro energy was the first form of electricity that Europe and the US started playing with. For example, much of the industrial history of Europe, from the presence of rivers with differential heights in water so that they had the way of producing energy. The development of the initial industrialization in most of Europe was driven by renewable energy, with the exception of the UK, which used coal. They started burning coal.
The change into renewable, I guess it's mainly done to clean the planet and to fight this climate warming, right?
Not anymore.
Do you think so? Why do we change, for instance?
Because it's cheaper. They're less expensive and they're more predictable. A generation based on renewables has a very clear view of what is the cost of energy in the next 20 years, 30 years. It's basically fixed. So it's a major shift in our mindset. We are used to live in a world since the 60s where all our economy, depending on oil, has gone through an incredible variation of volatility driven by oil prices. We are embedded into this volatility. And we seem not to even worry about it when we should. And this gas crisis showed that exactly. It's terrible to plan your economy on something that is out of your control and completely unpredictable.
There will be changes in the house heating, they're now planning to change completely the cars, the trucks. And is the world prepared to this change? I don't know if it's an evolution or a revolution.
It's a big transition. They call it transition. That's a word. But I think that the world is never really ready for change, but keeps changing. It will happen. It's happening actually without even us noticing fully. But electricity, as it becomes more and more decarbonized, it becomes cheaper and less volatile. So you start wondering, why don't I use electricity also for other uses that before were not conceivable? The major one is today transportation with cars and trucks, but you will see heating, cooling become heat pumps driven by electricity much better than boilers. You will see several industrial processes becoming more and more electrified, basically. So that transformation will drive electricity into areas where electricity was not there before. And that will entail profound transformation in the electricity system. What does it mean for an electricity network to have millions of cars charging batteries. What does it mean for an electricity network to have millions of heat pumps? How does it need to be adapted? What kind of changes we need to put into the system so that this can happen safely and reliably? So that's our job.
Some people say that hydrogen will be a new source of green energy, but this is not very clear if it is a dream or if it is something real. Or
I think green hydrogen is hydrogen produced by electrolysis. So it's today an expensive material. So it's expensive compared to the gray hydrogen that is produced by gas or coal. But it has no CO2, so it's not impacting the climate. So the bet is, can green hydrogen become as competitive to displace gray hydrogen? There are two factors. One is that it has to come with renewable energy that would cost below 40 euros per megawatt hour, and we are already at that level with that. The second is that the investment, the cost of the electrolyzers should be reduced by a factor of 6. It's a lot. It's a big reduction. But many other industries have done that. So batteries have done that. So why not? Today, the efforts are in that front. What is the technology? What are the innovations needed to have that competitive reached in order for green hydrogen to be as expensive or less expensive than gray hydrogen? And then once this happens, obviously the green hydrogen will displace gray hydrogen because it's more economic, because we've done that, and because it has no CO2 footprint.
are you investing in that?
So we are investing in 5 pilot projects, 2 in Italy, 2 in Spain, 1 in Chile, actually 6, and 1 in the US, to test all technologies and try to see whether there is hope for that. Typically, the rule of thumb here is that if a technology has some real potential, the first 3, 4, 5 years must show something. So if you don't see any real improvement in the third, 4th year, maybe it's not the way to go.
Enel is Italian, but how much is in Italy and how much in other countries?
It's a 40-60 rule. We have 40% of our employee in Italy, 60% abroad. We acquired Endesa, which is a very large incumbent player in Spain. Endesa had a large presence in Latin America. Through the acquisition of Endesa, which was a Spanish company, we have now an incumbent position in Chile, in Peru, in Colombia, in Argentina, and in Brazil.
In order to control all these countries with all the differences of culture, politics, and all, what is your job?
We have only one product, electricity. We don't have 300 brands. And that helps because you say, what is uniting us? And technology does unite us. That means a wind turbine spins the same way everywhere. A solar panel reflects light and absorbs light the same way everywhere. It doesn't understand if it sits in the US or in India. The panel is a panel. So we organize the company in technology lines, generation, networks, trading, and then we said everything else. So electric cars, demand response, batteries. And we put this everything else in another box so that we kept it simple. And then we said, what divides us? Ultimately, we work for customers that consume energy and pay the bills. Here, the bills and the way in which the systems work, the market works, are very, very different. The guys in charge of regions, their main task is manage customers and stakeholders, so governments. And their main focus is cash flow because the bills are paid locally. The other guys, their main concern is deploy the money for growth. So grow your business and maintain your business. So we kept it super clear, and that's very simple. 1, raise cash, you use the money right. What I do is make sure that this works like that.
Did you think it would become so important? Now it's all electricity, and it seems that you're not going back.
Honestly, that's a good question. I thought that renewables would become competitive at the beginning of 2010 period. At that time, it was impossible. It looked like it's crazy. But the implications of that, so that, yes, it becomes competitive and therefore electricity becomes so pervasive, it came a little later.
How much these renewable energies represent in the global energy of Enel?
Today we have more than 55, 60%, depending on the years. This year will be around 55% energy produced by renewable energy sources and the rest by thermal sources. So every year it's like a 5% increase.
And since that increase, how much the company increased?
We doubled our value, our market cap.
Because this is cheaper,
because it's
safer.
clearly in sync to where things are going.
And do you think that this has reached a top level, or you see that it will grow bigger and bigger?
Today we have 54,000 megawatts of renewable capacity installed. And our plan by 2030 is to treble that. Yes, we're already large, we'll become larger.
You will have a lot of competition. This will be a big threat for Enel.
Look, in any market, when is it that you really need to worry about competition is when your markets start to shrink. But if the market keeps expanding as it is, okay, the reason why it's so fragmented is that everyone is sucked in. The space is just too much for anyone to cover. The demand is growing so fast that it is difficult to keep up. And the limitation, as I told you, is not the money that you can raise or the number of opportunities that you have, but it's how many people you can put to work, keep motivated, train, and make sure that they stick with you, because competition is not on projects, it's not on money, it's on people.
We invest a lot of money and hope into intelligence, this new
AI,
which will bring a problem. Less people will have a job, and therefore you will have to think about what to do with people. How many people instead have to work for energy? I mean, is artificial intelligence going to substitute men's activity, or it's another thing?
No, it is going to have an impact. It's having already. A deep digital transformation like the one we have had has had an impact. But I can tell you the impact is net positive. That means that you can free resources to do something else. So when we, for example, shut down coal plants, shut down gas plants, shut down thermal plants, what happens to the people that work there? They get to work on renewable energy plants.
What is the proportion?
All of
them. You need as many people?
No, we need more. We are hiring more people because the growth is so fast. So the net result is so far that we have a net hiring problem because it's not easy to find trained people in this market. There's a big competition.
How many engineers you have around you? I mean, what kind of capacity you need?
We made a calculation that during this phase of growth, the net is that we need about 5,000 additional trained engineers to feed this machine.
How many you have now?
Roughly in that field, in the renewable energy space, 2,300, 2,500.
And in the global
70,000 people. Most of them are technicians or engineers anyway. So.
And there are enough schools to train these people?
No.
I mean, is the education prepared?
No.
Are you investing in education?
Yes, we are pushing, for example, girls, because the problem is technicians are mostly male, and we need engineers everywhere. On the very short term, we need people. If you look at the European recovery package, just in Italy, just on the networks that we need to revamp and prepare for this electrification phase, we need another 5,500 people that not necessarily need to come to us, but to all the companies that work with us, and they're not there. So we created 10 training centers in various parts of Italy to train these people in the next 2 years. You have to invest in companies that don't freeze their capital for a long time. That's why we think we are better off, because if you look at the cycle of our investment, there is nothing that we invest upon that does not get to work in more than 3 years. Short cycle. So you need to shorten the cycle so that you get your money working as fast as possible. And that's what we did. We decided we will never make any more the mistake to invest in things that take more than 3 years to be finished. So that no nuclear plants, they take 15, 19 years. No huge hydropower plants, 10 years at least. No huge coal plants, same. So everything must be finished. And now, today, we are working at 2 years. We have a 2-year cycle.
So you stop investing.
So we have an incredible freedom of allocating capital. So with inflation, this is super important because things change over short time.
You said you studied Greek and Latin. You wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But all this artificial intelligence, technology, changes of energy, where are the humanities? And is a big business, a man of large responsibility like you, still giving importance to the humanities, which are highly neglected in the universities nowadays in terms of investment.
I agree with you. I think humanities have different attributes in different parts of the world. But all in all, I think if you mean attention to ethics and to what is important, say, to have an orderly society or to maintain values that are critical to us today because of centuries of evolution in the past, and not dump everything on the ground just because some digital algorithms tell you to do that. I think there is a big gap to need to be filled. In that sense, I think it's a risk. I think the AI implications are maybe more worrisome at ethical level than at practical level. So the decisions that you can take based on recommendations coming at you from algorithms or artificial intelligence will become more and more questionable from an ethical standpoint. So I think that's really the frontier.
And you consider yourself that you should keep on investing also into what we generally will call humanities, and
yes.
You study.
If you want, we use the sustainability word mostly with an environmental flavor. But the truth is, for us, sustainability is what is needed in order for the evolution of society or a company like ours, which is only prospering if society prospers. Can we be happy in a society that is disrupted? Impossible. We supply energy to the society. If the society doesn't prosper, we don't. So I think sustainability is exactly that, to make sure that progress is not getting into loops of self-destructive patterns. So it has an ethical dimension. That's the way in which we interpret sustainability, not just environmental stuff. That's why for us it's so important to work on a sustainable manner, because it is a protection towards that risk.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Alain Elkann interviews.